back to Coaches on the Beach, and today we have a coach joining us from Tulane University. Cassidy, it's great to have you on.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Cass, it's great. I love that Michael decided to skip over the New Orleans and
Yeah,
Louisiana thing because before we started recording, he had a little fumble there. So
this is take
shout out
two.
there. Cassie, are you going into year three at the
I
old
am.
Green Wave? It's exciting. Tell us a little bit about like how you got into beach volleyball from the beach volleyball hotbed of Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Hotbed, I tell you what. So yeah, like you said, I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm sure, as you can guess, not a whole lot of beach there. I actually didn't even find out about beach until I went to Florida, and we're not going to tell you exactly how old I am, but during that time, beach volleyball was not in college yet. So didn't even know that was a sport. I went to Florida Tech, played for a year indoor, and that's where discovered beach. And when I went back home to New Mexico, that's actually where I found a really kind of good community of people who were making pushes and just going and training. And so that's where I decided to kind of put my efforts and switch over instead of going back for indoor, was just going to stay and train on the beach side. And during that time, then beach started coming in college, so we, started up a juniors at this time. UNM started a program, University of New Mexico. They were an OG. So a beach program started there. So worked really kind of hand in hand, with them more on the facilities and reffing kind of
Mhm.
level. This is also where coaching, playing also got into the reffing side, which if you haven't dabbled in there, it's great and fascinating. And got to really see and work through the growth of the sport. And it's, I think, also why, so passionate, and it's so exciting that we can sit here and have a podcast where we can talk about it. And there's so many of us that we can have these conversations and, walking on the beach, and that we now have 50 something courts and walking almost a mile to get to each of those courts to see these kids. That didn't exist. So a little bit of kind of immersed into beach. And right when I would say I was going to kind of make a professional like beach push is when I got the recruiting, or I guess the college call. So I actually went inside first. I know can't really talk about that, but really wanted to kind of explore coaching as a career option.
Yeah.
And so first went to Colorado Northwestern Community College inside, was there for a couple of years, and then COVID.
Mm.
It might be a little bit too soon, but COVID happened, and was really, really looking to, go back outside and back to what I'm really really passionate about but and really really love, and so was fortunate to go and come to the beach side at SFA. I was an assistant there working with Alex Luna. Great experience, and then year after that got to go and have head coaching experience at UCA for a year, and now like you said, 3 years here at Tulane where I'm coaching with AL Zimmett, and it's been great. So lots of experiences, lots of growth, and it's great to see just where we are and where we're coming, and even just the level. Like
Yeah.
it's insane. It's great.
Quite the change up. Yeah, I mean, I think Albuquerque's got a fun little, like you said, a community. So obviously got to go out to Sandia a couple years ago and play in that, which is a hoot and a half. Yeah,
Yeah.
an OG tournament out there. But then, of course, we've got Daniel Fu, the Fu Master, one of
Yeah.
our favorite people to jump on here, is an
Oh yeah.
Albuquerquean, however you say it.
Pequeño.
Yeah, there you go. And then also up at Catawba is your buddy, Susanna.
Oh yeah.
Andrade, right? She spent a lot of time in Albuquerque and is now the head beach coach at Catawba up in
Mhm.
North Carolina. And so There's a weirdly big grouping. We've got there's a blocker, the twos blocker, and like freshman of the year in the WCCs from Albuquerque. I think there's a freshman joining somebody on this call's program as a yeah, I don't know who. Could be Coastal.
Hmm.
Could be Coastal joining our group in the fall. So
Yeah.
it's kind of expanded a little bit. Tell us a little bit about like what that community is like when I think all of us know the big California area or the big Florida area. How does community of beach volleyball bond and spend a lot of time together in places that are maybe less easy access?
Mm. That's like actually one of my favorite things to like look and talk about. Because I think that we're so unique as a beach volleyball community and that we are so like giving and understanding. So and like you said, Albuquerque, pretty small community, even smaller community of people who were, actually training and wanting to make pushes. And so you get really, really close, whether that's good or bad. We'll take both.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you kind of work through some of those things. But that's something I think that's really, really special and that, you do kind of really bond. And whenever you're in Albuquerque, there's different cliques and niches, but then you go because we would have like we had to travel
Hmm.
to tournaments. So we would often go up to Colorado, we would often go down to Arizona. We started branching a little bit out into like Texas a little bit. This is also during NBL's
Mhm.
era. That tells you anything. And if any of you guys even know what that is, awesome, great. Loved the NBL. Kind of in conjunction with the AVP. Um,
Is that what
but
the conjunction, huh?
I feel like that was nice.
I think they hated each other pretty regularly. But yeah,
It's fine. They were there. They existed.
they did
Now
exist.
one doesn't.
Yeah.
But with that, you kind of get used to your travel group and your people. And so, I mean, this hasn't changed a whole lot of, some of it's hard. Like there's some financial stuff that you kind of have to go through. And so you get very creative. So you caravan and you pack a whole bunch of people in a car and you go because that's cost effective. You pack as many people as you can into an Airbnb and you get to draw straws who sleeps in the floor or who doesn't make it back too bad. You now get the floor
Yeah, you're on the
kind
floor.
of place. So I mean it was rough, it was a grind, but those are some of I think my personal favorite memories. And within your community, and you might not be the best of friends in your state or even in your town, but you go outside and guess what? You're tight and you're rooting for each other. And that was some of the best is, we would have New Mexico against Colorado, just, picking your pony and you're riding it out, and you go and hang out afterwards. That's why our community is awesome for a
Yeah.
beach. Don't know how many times, you can just call someone up, be like, hey, I'm over here. Can I have your couch?
Yep.
That's a pretty active.
Absolutely, like
Yeah.
100%.
It's
Come
a
on
it's
down. Like, do you have partners? Do you have friends? How many beds are we talking about?
Yeah.
yeah, for real. I mean, it's a great experience, and obviously the Albuquerque group. I do before we go too far, I do have to mention Allison Voigt, Allison Buck. That way she doesn't kill me. Is also an Albuquerquean, thanks to her college time.
Hmm.
So yeah, I got to make sure I mention that. But kind of just going into it, you're talking about pick your pony, right? So I think that's a fun tradition that you don't see on the AVP tour. And you can, I think, Cass, we can understand we're all adults here, so feel free to kind of detail through us what pick your pony means in a local grassroots open tournament.
Oh, pick your pony is easy and the best, and may or may not be a popular contest. Up to you. So what pick your pony would be is you have a group, and we're doubles, so we're playing doubles. And you pick a player who is going to be your pony, and you're just going to ride that pony. And what that means is your player does something awesome, give out a drink.
Player
There
does
you go.
something awesome, you give out a drink. Now, if
You
that's not a
give
way
out
to
a drink.
build community and engage in an enjoyment piece, it can be a drink of apple juice if you need to be.
Yep.
But I think that's not what it's often played with. In fact,
hmm
um,
it's all inclusive, like you said.
it's all inclusive.
Whatever is in your cup,
Those
Yeah,
hot summer days, you
take a
need
sip.
just a drink of water, right?
drink of water. There
Yeah,
you
Yes.
go.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of
hmm
those things where all of a sudden you've created this environment where people are surrounding a court that they might not have otherwise cared about. I think that's uh,
Yes.
something you see. I think the best thing you see about top tier local tournament events, Wapaka, Pottstown, Seaside, obviously Sandia, I'll lump in there. I'll chuck that one in there. Motherlode, all those good tournaments, right?
Motherfucker.
Is like, and Fuddfuckers, right? Fuds is another good
Yeah.
example. But like the group of people that are done playing, rather than being like, all right, I'm headed home, see ya, right? They kind of group around that event and really start to play silly games like pick your pony or get involved. Something that Chris Geeter McGee did. He kind of brought that community centered of being around center court to the AVP. It's
Mm.
something that made it really fun. Obviously, as you're going through like traveling and training together, how do you kind of start to identify like, okay, this is a thing that I want to spend my life in because you're not really financially making any money. You're probably having a good time, but I don't know how many summers or how many nights a year you can spend on a floor before you're like, okay, this probably isn't the best thing I've ever done with my life.
Yeah. I think that's a really good question. And I think you just really have to love it. Like I think you have to love it. And I think like the more that you like are working and are seeing like your progress and wanting to continue to like compete at a higher level, you're gonna start seeing that success.
Mm.
The more success that you have, you're like, okay, I'm right there, so I want to make maybe another jump. And then you struggle a little bit, you start getting better, and then you get a taste for it, you're starting to see results, you're like, okay, I want to take another jump. So it kind of sucks you in, honestly, a little bit, at least in my like like and then as you're going through there's so many tournaments that you even mentioned. There's so many that we don't even know. So there's word of mouth
Yeah.
of even just different tournaments that you might enjoy either because of the community aspect or because of the like level and like driver payout. So I think that's also a little bit of the pull of what you're wanting. Like you meant Seaside has been on my list. Like I've heard it's a great time and good people, good community, good
Good volley.
like quality, like
Yeah.
so you kind of get all of it and it's just an experience. And so that's been on my list for years. Unfortunately, the timing of it currently doesn't match up and so we're a little bit like coming into season. So it will continue to be on my list
There you
until
go.
I'm able, but that's also something that's really cool is, as you go through, you're learning about how to go across the country, and sometimes you'll even make like trips just to do that, or just to go visit a friend and like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hey, you're here, I'm gonna come play with you,
Let's find this tournament.
period. Let's
Let's play.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's awesome. How did you decide to like give up this life of luxury of sleeping on couches and floors in order to get into coaching? How did you decide to do that?
So I actually got a call. So it was one of my previous teammates and we had talked about coaching together whenever we were players.
Hmm.
And she just got the head coaching job. And she's like, "Hey, are you even still coaching?" I'm like, "Yes, but it's mostly on the beach." So she said that she had an assistant position open, and so really wanted to get the foot in the door. Like, yes, I was a little bit more interested in the beach avenue, but getting a foot in the door is a foot in the door. And
Yeah.
very, very happy I did. Because also just within community college, you get to do all of it. And you get to learn all the things that are kind of behind the scenes, and you recruit both like juniors, but also you want to push them through and get them into, 4-year programs. So I think it was a really, really great experience because I learned real quick how to do everything.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to run a program, and like seeing both sides of the recruiting aspect, I'm sure it helped you in the future. And then you did mention COVID came and played a role in everybody's career at that point. Talking about what was that like? You were still at the community college when COVID hit, yeah?
Yeah, we were actually just about to go to Crossroads. Like we were leaving that morning and then everything kind of shut down. We were really, really small, so we weren't, I don't think, as impacted as other places. But I mean, it was hard. Like there was just so many adjustments that everybody, had to work through and go through and just because we were or automatically in an itty bitty little bubble doesn't mean that other people weren't. And so I mean, that experience, I think, taught everybody what it is to be resourceful and to pivot and to, think on their feet. Again, now that we're through it and here, like, yeah, that was a great experience and happy we're through it. But people who didn't have to do that stuff, like,
Yeah.
we're better than you.
Fair
And
enough. JUCO bandit, as they say.
Oh, it was wild.
Yeah. And then now, how does so COVID comes and did you decide to get out of indoor or was it just kind of like hey, this is a good breaking point. I'm gonna go
Um,
follow
I
this
think it was
insane dude named Alex.
yeah, I think it was mutual. So I had been looking. It was kind of like right around the time, like the beginning of the season, and had the opportunity and kind of had been having conversations. And so when I left Colorado Northwestern, I think 2 weeks
Hmm.
later, was up in NAC, and we were, going. So crazy kind of turnarounds, but I think it was also just it was time, and it was cold.
Yeah.
So almost like it was like almost a natural break and kind
yeah.
of like an opportunities for myself. Like
Mhm.
like the world shut down, you could kind of get your priorities straight.
Sure.
Let's go ahead and make that transition.
Yeah, and you did what all beach volleyball coaches do, which is we moved to a place that we've never even heard of, to go work with people we've never even heard of because they have a sport team there for some reason. And so, obviously, I think with the news lately, it's been a bit of a bummer to see SFA decide to discontinue their program. Obviously, with the start that it's given lots of people, you, Susanna, Louisa, Alex, right? Everybody is even just from a coaching perspective has gone there
Yeah,
and had a great experience, let alone the student athletes that had a phenomenal experience. So we're disappointed. I think all
yeah.
I can say that for the group and in people making that decision, but we'll continue to fight back stronger. What is it at Tulane that you guys are currently working on to kind of build up the rapport of like Tulane beach volleyball? How do we get to the point where people stop going, we have a beach volleyball team here? Because we've all had that question, right? We've all experienced it
Oh,
on the campus. So
it's our
what's kind
absolute
of your
favorite.
your plan right now to continue to work towards notoriety amongst Green Wave fans?
Yeah. I think it's a great question. I think we're focusing a little bit more so not just on like the school and the city, and more of how can we make beach volleyball here and permanent and stable. So, I always think some things that we've been thinking about are, okay, revenue sports are the sports who are here. And so what are some potential options that beach has? Because we can, I know I'm speaking to the crowd, but we think it's one of the best sports that there is. Like it's the most watched within the Olympics still. Like how can we kind of have that become and grow within collegiate? I think the AVP they're going through, some of those options as well. And so I think that's where we currently are is how do we become a revenue sport as a whole? And so
Hmm.
some things that we're kind of looking and trying to figure out is kind of like streaming and making, that something. We kind of we just put in fixed cameras. We're working on having broadcast. We're working on how can we tie that broadcast in with some NIL offers, some promotions, some sponsors, things like that is our most recent kind of dive into, not just for ourselves, but for the entirety of beach within like
Yeah.
collegiate.
And
Yeah.
Because
speaking of that, you don't have to give away all your secrets of what you guys are doing, but like, where would you suggest somebody start if they're looking into that streaming stuff or if they're looking into a camera system?
yeah, so the company that we currently are working through that with is Sporfy.
Hmm.
We just put like kind of their cameras up and we're connecting them with our like media people. I'm not the person to know a whole lot about that, because technology are like barely here.
Hey, we were
So they
excited you
talk,
got the Zoom open.
dude, I don't think you understand. Like the fact that it hasn't finished yet, but the fact that it hasn't broken down yet is close to a miracle.
Yeah.
All right. So if
But
it breaks,
they talk
remember
about
Cassidy jinxed
stuff. Say what?
I said, remember if it breaks, Cassidy jinxed it. That's what we just landed on. Yeah, Sporfy. I think Michael, do you guys use them?
We do not yet.
Okay, but Tampa for sure
Hmm.
does. So University of Tampa's been doing it.
North
For
Alabama does too.
North Alabama. If you're interested in getting streaming up, Cody Dunn down at Cape Fear has made the offer to me multiple times to show me how it works. So there's definitely lots of people out there, but that's exciting. So you're turning it into, are you guys going to have announcers? Is that kind of one of the plans?
So currently, please, Buzz, if you're watching, you need to say yes again. So we have an awesome alumni parent
Hmm.
who was his second year coming through and kind of like announcing and kind of making this our venue and just the whole thing
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure his goal is to make me laugh every day, and
perfect.
he's gotten it so far.
Which isn't always easy because you're pretty
It's
focused in being able to coach against you and uh, seeing
I'm
that competitor side come out.
Dude, like I've even told him like I don't know how you do it because I don't hear anything and I don't know how he seeps in, but
He nailed it. Yeah,
he
that's
he
that's
does.
funny. That's something we're trying to look at too. Is I think right now, if you've ever been to Europe and seen like an indoor match, the constant celebration and cheering and like crowd involvement has been big. And I think beach
Hmm.
volleyball has done a phenomenal job. I mean, we were just talking about picking your pony. Not that I'm encouraging that on a college campus, but I'm not deterring it. Is that what's being said? Um, but I do think there's a space right now where we've currently been pretty straight-laced, right? We've been
Hmm.
pretty formal, and formal is rarely fun. I don't think
Hmm.
people find themselves enjoying it, and that's kind of our sport. And so we're also I'm trying to find somebody that's willing to maybe go out there and get a little bit more crowd involvement and like kind of get people going because I think it'll be good. And I'm sure some
Yeah.
teams will be like, well, that's not great, and I don't really care what they think.
So, well, come on down to New Orleans. So that's also something that we have been really making push. Like this past year, we started doing fan events in
Mhm.
between duels or matches. So like we had a skyball contest.
Yeah, yeah. That's fun. I
Um,
remember I remember being down there one year and the I think it was before you got there because I think Joe Kremer was there. But yeah, the
cool.
fans like it got to match point and all the fans started chanting "Sky Ball, Sky Ball, Sky Ball," and then of course the Green Wave athlete decided to appease the crowd and she skyballed against the team
Give the
and wound
people
up
what
winning
they
the rally.
want.
Give the people what
That's
they want.
amazing.
Yeah, I think that's I don't know. There's a bit of showmanship, right? There's a bit of the theater piece that's what people enjoy football, baseball, basketball, volleyball. Like that's what we all enjoy sports for is a little bit of the theater piece. And
Hmm.
so I love that you guys are opting to stream it. Hopefully continue to add a little theater from that side of things. Um, on the court, right? You guys have had quite a bit of success. I would say the Green Wave have done a phenomenal job of being a perennial I would say perennial top 25 team, but we don't have rankings that far. And I think you're always kind of in that 18 to 22 range. what is kind of the next step for your group to not be the 18 to 22 range, but to be the 15 and beat those stinking Owls for a conference championship.
Fine. Yeah, I think, we're continuing to kind of do the same. We have a great group of girls who are focused and driven, and they show up every day. This past year was definitely it was a hard loss, because we weren't done. And for us to say that about every single person on the team in a conference championship, wanting and pushing and ready for a whole nother week of grind is rare. And
Yeah,
so we definitely don't look past that. But really the credit is all to the girls. And I think that they do a really good job of coming in and focusing on those details, but also doing it like fun. They have so much fun with the drills. They have so much fun with each other. They like to have that push, and they're learning how to do it in a way that not only lifts themselves but lifts each other. So I think that kind of presence on the
Hmm.
court is where we're making that push, and they like competing at a high level. Even if they're not point successful, they're learning that piece. And so I think it's just, continuing continue. Unfortunately, like what we're doing, I think we're on the right track. We have
Yeah.
so much support from so many places now that it's alive.
Yeah.
And beach here at Tulane right now is very much we're looked at, and we're getting a lot of support. And I think that's also really seen and
Yeah.
really, really important. So I think it's also goes into just Tulane as an institution that you can see that.
yeah, that's awesome. We're super
Yeah.
excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we always like to close out our podcasts with a simple question of like what do you want to see next out of the NCAA and beach volleyball? And it's a pretty loaded question, especially right now with different changes happening and everything's kind of up in the air. So you have the most free reign I think any guest has had because there's really nothing set.
Uh, uh, okay, I'm gonna go on my very first with kind of addressing the roster caps is
Yeah.
number one, that thing needs to be even.
Even? Do you want an even
Even.
number?
We
What if
need
the
even
even number is
numbers.
12?
Oh my God, that would make me very upset. That wouldn't be possible. I was like, Michael, how you can attest, I don't
Yeah.
know how any program, let alone with 10, I don't know how you could do it. But I mean, I think that, having that even number right now, it's at 19, 18 or 20. I think that's would be better. I just think it's very ignorant to kind of have that
Hmm.
19. So that'd be kind of my first push and suggestion. But, past that, kind of like I was talking about earlier, how can we really continue to have our foot in the door, and
Yeah.
how can we continue to grow and be here and not be worried about programs continuing to be on the chopping block or and go away. Like I think that we want the sport, and not just in college but in general, but especially in college, you've seen what it's doing to the women's game internationally. Like we're competitive right out of college for a reason. And
Hmm.
so internationally, that's giving us an advantage. If that goes away because of X, Y, and Z, that's going to be a problem. So what are ways that we as a community can be here
Hmm.
indefinitely? And how can we grow instead of having some of these programs unfortunately be cut? Because, like you said, devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah. finding ways to add money is always going to help. So hopefully streaming continues to pick up. Hopefully the enjoyment of the sport will continue to grow. I think the more the hard part is that we're so young, but the good part is that we're so young
Yeah.
as a sport, right? Because obviously young for last in, first out is kind of the mantra, but if you can start to show a true upward mobility, then we're
Mhm.
gonna present ourselves with an opportunity. As beach volleyball, we are one of the least expensive to continue to operate and to operate effectively. I would argue, the success had by Tulane probably cost less per win than almost any other program on campus. And then it makes you wonder, like, okay, what kind of success can they have with a little bit more,
Hmm.
right? What
Yeah.
kind of support do we have to give in order to bring Tulane into that national championship conversation? Cough,
Yeah.
cough, Loyola Marymount? Question mark, right? A school that like seriously, of
Yeah.
all the schools, right? You don't think Loyola Marymount should be national championship contenders in many things, and here they are in beach volleyball, toe to toe with the Big 12.
Hmm.
Uh, so can we put ourselves in a position to be that sport? I think it's an opportunity, but it is
Yeah.
kind of interesting to see. We might be the only head coaches on our campuses that are like sitting there thinking to themselves, okay, I've got to put something together that makes money. I'm
Hmm.
not sure the football coach at any school has thought to himself, how can I increase fan engagement at our home football games? I'm not sure that's been a conversation at any of our programs or any of our schools. And so, no, I agree wholeheartedly. How do we get ourselves to the space where we can be around for a long while?
Yeah.
Well, it's been great hearing from you and getting to know you a little bit. Thank you for jumping on, and look forward to see what Tulane can do this upcoming season.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
very much. Appreciate y'all.
See ya.